Atlanta, Georgia, was sweltering under the summer heat. The sky was clear and blue, and the city seemed to buzz with the energy of parties and social events filling the warm nights. Lucas Johnson, a 25-year-old black man, was at a stylish cocktail party hosted by a friend's company. It was an event for emerging professionals, and Lucas was there hoping to expand his network and, perhaps, find opportunities for his future. Among the guests, Jessica Mitchell, a vibrant 23-year-old, stood out with her warm smile and engaging presence. As the daughter of the renowned businessman Richard Mitchell, she was well acquainted with Atlanta's social and business circles. When their eyes met, there was a silent moment of recognition. Lucas approached her, trying not to seem too eager. "Hi, Jessica. Can I get you a drink? It looks like the bartender's been quite busy tonight." Jessica smiled and accepted the offer. "Sure, Lucas. I was beginning to wonder if the bartender had vanished. You've saved me." As he moved to fetch the drinks, Jessica watched him with curiosity. There was something about him that made her feel an immediate connection, something beyond the event's formalities. "So, Lucas," Jessica began when he returned with the glasses, "what brought you to this event? Are you looking for something specific?" Now more relaxed, Lucas replied, "Actually, I'm trying to connect with influential people in my field. I've just graduated with a degree in business administration, and I'm looking for opportunities to grow professionally." Jessica nodded, interested. "Got it. And what area are you thinking of working in?" "I'm open to various possibilities, but I have a particular interest in project management and entrepreneurship. I've always wanted to work in an environment where I could make a difference." Jessica seemed genuinely interested. "That's great. Atlanta has a vibrant market for those fields. If you need any advice or help, don't hesitate to reach out to me." They continued talking for a while, exchanging stories and ideas, and their connection seemed to grow with each passing minute. However, their interaction didn't go unnoticed. Richard Mitchell, who was present at the event, observed the scene with a scrutinizing gaze and a stern expression. The next morning, Richard Mitchell was in his office, discussing the event with one of his trusted colleagues, Tom, a middle-aged man who understood Richard's peculiarities and biases. "Did you see what happened last night, Tom?" Richard began, his voice laden with irritation. "My daughter, Jessica, was talking to that young man, Lucas Johnson." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Yes, I noticed. What about him?" Richard scoffed. "He's just an aspiring professional, isn't he? And it seemed like things got a bit too personal for my liking. If my daughter really takes an interest in him, it could cause problems." Tom looked at Richard, understanding the direction of the conversation. "I see. What do you plan to do?" "I'm going to make sure he realizes he's not welcome in our circle," Richard replied with calculated coldness. "I'll invite him to a business meeting, tell him there's a job opportunity, and then show him that he doesn't belong here." Tom hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. "Understood. I'll arrange the meeting." Richard smiled, satisfied with his plan. He knew that by using his power, he could push Lucas out of his life and prevent his daughter's relationship with him from developing further. Back at the event, Lucas was excited about the new possibilities. He was unaware that, behind the scenes, an insidious plan was being crafted against him. The sun blazed intensely over the imposing glass and steel building housing Mitchell Technologies' headquarters in Atlanta. Richard Mitchell, the 55-year-old tech magnate, was seated in his grand conference room, surrounded by opulence. The office was decorated with high-quality furniture, modern artworks, and a panoramic view of the city that testified to his success. Richard, with his commanding posture and stern expression, was reviewing documents when his assistant, Clara, entered. "Mr. Mitchell, you have a meeting scheduled with Mr. Tom at 11 o'clock. There's also an urgent matter we need to discuss." Richard looked up from his papers, clearly irritated. "What's so urgent, Clara?" Clara hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. "We received a report about the situation with the young man, Lucas Johnson. You mentioned wanting a solution for him." Richard frowned, his face mixing anger and disdain. "Ah, Lucas Johnson. The guy my daughter was talking to at the event, right?" "I haven't forgotten." Clara nodded. "Yes, exactly. It seems like the situation with him could become a problem if not handled." Richard leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. "I've already made a decision. I'm going to have him come to the office under the pretense of a job opportunity. That way, I can deal with him once and for all. At 11 o'clock, Richard's office was set up to receive Tom. Tom, a middle-aged man with a constantly alert expression, entered the room and took a seat in front of Richard. "Good morning, Richard," Tom said, his voice formal. "About the plan to handle the young man, Lucas Johnson." Richard raised a hand, cutting him off. Yes. I'm already up to speed on the matter. He'll be coming to the office this afternoon. We want to make sure he understands his place. Be prepared for anything that might come up." Tom adjusted his glasses and made a note. "Do you have a specific plan in mind?" Richard smiled coldly. "We'll invite him in for a discussion about a potential position at our company. We'll give him the impression that there's a real chance, just to make him feel secure. Once he's here, how we handle it will depend on the situation." Tom raised an eyebrow. "And if he questions the intentions or the offer?" Richard chuckled dryly. "Don't worry. The goal is to make sure he realizes he doesn't belong in our circle. And if necessary, we have resources to make that point more emphatically clear." Later, Lucas Johnson received a message from Tom, asking him to come in for a meeting at Mitchell Technologies headquarters. Lucas was excited, believing it might be the opportunity he had been waiting for to advance his career. He prepared for the meeting with anticipation and a touch of nervousness. When he arrived at the imposing building, Lucas was greeted by the receptionist, who directed him to the conference room where Richard and Tom were waiting. As he walked in, Lucas saw Richard seated at the head of the table, his presence dominating the space. "Good morning, Lucas," Richard said with a calculated smile. "Thank you for coming." "Good morning, Mr. Mitchell," Lucas replied, extending his hand for a firm handshake. "I received the message and am eager to learn more about the opportunity." Richard gestured to one of the seats. "Please, have a seat. I'd like to discuss some possibilities that might be of interest to you." Lucas settled into his chair, observing attentively. The room was cold and formal, reflecting Richard's reserved nature. Tom stood by, jotting down notes in a notepad. "I understand you're looking for opportunities in project management and entrepreneurship," Richard began, his tone cordial. "Mitchell Technologies is always on the lookout for promising talent. We'd like to explore how you might fit into our future plans." Lucas smiled, hoping the conversation would lead to good news. "That's great to hear. I'm really interested in contributing to and learning from such a renowned company." As the conversation progressed, Richard maintained meticulous control over the situation, knowing exactly where he wanted things to end up. Lucas was paying attention, unaware that he was being lured into a carefully laid trap. After the meeting at Mitchell Technologies, Lucas Johnson was thrilled about the prospect of a new beginning. He left the office with the impression that a significant opportunity was within reach. His excitement surged as he decided to share the good news with Jessica Mitchell, the young woman he had met at the party. That afternoon, Lucas called Jessica, who answered quickly. "Hi, Jessica. It's Lucas. I just got out of a meeting at Mitchell Technologies, and I think there's a real chance I might get a job there." Jessica, who was at home, could feel the joy in Lucas's voice. "That's amazing, Lucas. Congratulations. I knew you were working hard. How did the meeting go?" Lucas tried to convey his enthusiasm clearly. "It went really well. Richard Mitchell and Tom, his assistant, were very welcoming. They said they're exploring how I could contribute to the company. I felt the meeting was very positive." Jessica hesitated for a moment, concerned. "Lucas, can I be honest with you? I have a slight feeling that something might not be entirely right. My dad, well, you know how he is. Sometimes he acts a bit unpredictably." Lucas laughed, trying to ease the tension. "I understand your concern, but I think everything will be fine. I was so excited that I barely noticed any signs that something might be wrong. The important thing is there's a real chance." Jessica decided to set aside her worries, at least for now. "Well, I'm glad you're staying optimistic. Let's celebrate when everything comes through. And please, keep me posted on any updates." Meanwhile, in a conference room next to Richard's office, Tom was reviewing the task list when Richard entered with an expression of satisfaction and malice. "So, Tom," Richard said, tossing the papers onto the table with a brusque gesture. "The young Lucas seems more than enthusiastic. How's the planning for our little welcome for him coming along? Tom looked up from his notes. Everything is in progress. The meeting is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, and we've taken all the precautions to ensure he understands his place. Richard leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. Excellent. We can't let him think he belongs to anything more than a fleeting illusion. If he dares to think he can mingle with our circles, we need to make it very clear where he stands. Tom nodded, his gaze reflecting Richard's coldness. Understood. I'll make sure everything is ready. The next morning, Lucas went to the office with a sense of anticipation. He was confident that the meeting would be an important step in his career. He believed that what had been promised might actually come to fruition. Upon arriving at the building, Lucas was once again greeted by the receptionist and directed to the same conference room where he had previously met Richard and Tom. However, this time, the atmosphere seemed a bit more charged. "Good morning, Mr. Mitchell," Lucas said, trying to maintain his confidence. "I'm ready for our discussion." Richard looked up from his papers and gestured for Lucas to sit down. "Good morning, Lucas. I'm glad you could come. We have some important matters to discuss." Tom, who was in the room, took his place next to Richard. "Yes, we want to make sure you fully understand what's at stake." Lucas observed with curiosity. "Sure, I'm ready to hear more." Richard smiled with calculated intent. "Great. As I mentioned earlier, there's a position that might be a good fit for you. But before we dive into the details, we need to assess how you handle high-pressure situations. We want to be sure you can deal with the challenges our company faces." Lucas, still optimistic, replied, "I'm prepared for any challenge. If there's something specific I need to know or do, I'm ready for it." Richard and Tom exchanged a brief glance. Richard then continued, "Well, we really value work ethic and resilience. To join our team, we'll need a real demonstration of these qualities. Therefore, we're arranging a small task for you." The tension in the air began to rise, but Lucas was determined to prove his worth. He had no idea that what he was about to face was much more than just a professional challenge. As the meeting continued, Richard and Tom were set on making this task a revealing and unsettling experience for Lucas, setting the stage for what was to come. Thursday morning was muggy, and the heat of Atlanta seemed to weigh down on Mitchell Technologies' office. Lucas Johnson, still excited about the prospect of a new opportunity, awaited the promised meeting with anticipation. He was ready to showcase his skills and prove his value to the company. At 10 a.m., Lucas received a call from Tom, Richard's assistant. "Good morning, Lucas," Tom said with a crisp but professional tone. "We're ready to start the challenge we discussed. Please head to the address I sent you via message. Mr. Mitchell will be there to explain everything." Lucas checked the address on his phone and made a quick note. "Sure, Tom. I'll be there soon. Thanks for the update." The location was a building in a more secluded area, far from the city's central business district. Lucas parked his car in front of the building and entered, noticing the surrounding area with a growing sense of discomfort. The entrance was unassuming, and the receptionist, a middle-aged woman with a reserved demeanor, greeted him with a neutral expression. "You must be Lucas Johnson," she said with a dry tone. "Mr. Mitchell is expecting you on the 3rd floor. You can take the stairs on the right." Lucas climbed the stairs, his heart racing with each step. Upon reaching the 3rd floor, he found a metal door with a simple sign that read, "Conference Room." He knocked on the door and entered. Richard Mitchell was seated at the table, his gaze sharp and calculating. Tom stood beside him, wearing a serious expression. "Good morning, Lucas," Richard said with a forced smile. "Please, have a seat. Let's get started." Lucas settled into the chair in front of Richard and Tom, trying to stay calm. "Good morning, Mr. Mitchell. I'm ready for the task." Richard began speaking with a cold calmness. "Excellent. Today, you'll be participating in an assessment exercise to see how you handle pressure. We have some activities planned to better understand your response to challenging situations." Lucas, believing the exercise was a legitimate way to assess his abilities, responded with confidence, "Understood. What's the first activity?" Tom handed Lucas an envelope. "Inside this envelope, you'll find a list of instructions. Follow them carefully." Lucas opened the envelope and pulled out a set of papers. The instructions were vague, mentioning something about solving a problem and demonstrating practical skills. The first item seemed straightforward: requiring Lucas to locate a specific document within the building and present it to the team. "This seems relatively straightforward," Lucas said, beginning to follow the instructions. "I'll get started right away." As Lucas set off to complete the first task, Richard and Tom watched him with a critical eye. They knew that what Lucas didn't realize was that the exercise was designed to be frustrating and disorienting. "Do you think he'll handle it well?" Tom asked, his voice tinged with skepticism. Richard chuckled softly. "He doesn't know, but this is just an introduction. The real test will be more complex. We want to make sure he clearly understands our message." Tom frowned. "What if he starts questioning the intentions?" Richard looked at him with a determined gaze. "Then he'll have to deal with it. The important thing is that he understands his place and our position. By the end of the day, he'll know exactly where he fits in." As Lucas followed the instructions, he encountered unexpected obstacles. Documents were hidden in places not indicated, and the tasks seemed to change without warning. Frustration began to build, but he persevered, believing he was getting closer to completing the task. After some time, he returned to the conference room, visibly exhausted but holding the document. "I completed the task," he said, trying to mask the fatigue in his voice. Richard glanced at the document, and then at Lucas with a mix of disdain and satisfaction. "Well done, Lucas. You've shown some resilience, but today's exercise was just a small test. What we need to assess is how you perform in a more complex situation." Tom, maintaining a cold expression, made a note in his notepad. "Thank you for your participation. We'll be in touch soon about the next steps." Lucas, unaware that the worst was yet to come, left the building with a growing sense of unease. What he didn't know was that the trap was just beginning to close around him. As the afternoon turned to evening, Lucas Johnson prepared to leave the Mitchell Technologies headquarters. He had completed what he thought was the first step toward a potential job opportunity. However, the feeling of discomfort wouldn't leave him. Something seemed off, but he tried to ignore it, focusing on the hope that his actions would be evaluated positively. As Lucas made his way to the parking lot, Tom approached him with a grave expression. "Lucas, can I speak with you for a moment before you go?" Tom asked, his tone formal and distant. Lucas hesitated but nodded. "Sure, Tom. What do you need?" Tom led Lucas back into the building, to an adjacent conference room. "We have a slightly more detailed procedure we'd like to discuss with you. Please come in." The room was dimly lit, except for the soft light of a single lamp on the table. Richard Mitchell was seated at the head of the table, his expression unchanged. Tom closed the door behind Lucas and took his place next to Richard. "So, Lucas," Richard began, his voice cold and calculated, "you completed the task. I understand it was a bit challenging, but that's part of our assessment. Now, there's a matter we need to discuss." Lucas, trying to stay calm, responded, "Yes, Mr. Mitchell. I'm ready for any feedback or discussion." Richard smiled stiffly. "Great. The next step is what I would call a way to test your resilience and commitment. Our company has very high standards, and it's crucial that all candidates prove themselves in various situations." Tom moved closer to the table and placed a new envelope on it. Inside this envelope are instructions for a new challenge. This is a more difficult test involving a practical task at a different location. Lucas frowned. "A new challenge? But I already completed what was asked." Richard leaned forward, his gaze penetrating. "This challenge will test your true capabilities. It's a process we use to see how people handle unforeseen and complex situations. If you truly want to be part of our team, it's important that you prove your ability to adapt and overcome obstacles." Tom handed the envelope to Lucas. "You have until the end of the day to complete this task. The instructions are clear. Otherwise, we'll consider you not suitable for the position." Lucas looked at the envelope with a mix of exhaustion and determination. "Understood. I'll follow the instructions." Lucas left the room with the envelope in hand, his heart pounding faster. He opened the envelope as soon as he reached the parking lot, revealing a set of instructions that seemed even more vague and cryptic than the previous ones. "Find the specified location and complete the task within an hour," the note read, with an address for a remote location outside the city. Lucas drove to the given address, arriving at an old building in a quiet area. The place looked abandoned, and a sense of unease began to settle in. The structure had an air of desolation, and Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. He entered the building, finding a dark, dusty environment. In one corner of the room was a table with a box on top and a simple note. The note read, "Complete the task and prove your capability. There is no turning back." Lucas opened the box to find a set of tools and construction materials. The goal was to assemble a small device, a task that seemed out of context and unnecessarily complex. As he worked on the assembly, the feeling of discomfort turned into a deep sense of distress. He began to realize that the task was intentionally difficult and challenging. Back at the Mitchell Technologies office, Richard and Tom discussed the situation with a tone of calculated coldness. "It looks like Lucas is following the instructions," Tom said with a dark smile. "The task is going exactly as planned. He hasn't figured out the true nature of the challenge yet." Richard nodded, satisfied. "Good. The goal is to push him out of his comfort zone and make it clear that he doesn't belong here. Tomorrow, we'll have an ending that will make our thoughts clear." Tom watched with a severe look. "And what if he persists?" Richard laughed dryly. "Then he'll have to deal with the consequences. The important thing is that he understands his place and, more importantly, that my daughter and our circles aren't tainted by undesirable elements." Lucas completed the assembly, exhausted and frustrated. He left the building with the feeling that the situation was more complicated than he had anticipated. What was presented as an opportunity was turning into an agonizing challenge. The realization that he had fallen into a trap began to solidify, but it was too late to turn back. What awaited him was a bitter revelation of Richard Mitchell's true intentions. The next morning, Atlanta awoke to the summer humidity and a growing sense of unease hanging over Lucas Johnson. He had barely slept, troubled by what felt like a cruel evaluation game. After completing the challenging task at the abandoned location, Lucas was determined to find out what else Mitchell Technologies had in store for him. At 9 a.m., he arrived back at the company's headquarters, a bit earlier than necessary, with a mix of exhaustion and resolve. The receptionist greeted him and directed him to the conference room. "Good morning, Lucas," the receptionist said in a neutral tone. "Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Tom will be with you shortly." Lucas sat down, waiting anxiously, feeling that something significant was about to happen. Finally, Richard and Tom entered the room, both with expressions that combined formality with a hint of disdain. "Good morning, Lucas," Richard began, his voice cold and controlled. "You completed the task that was given to you, and I'd like to discuss your performance." Lucas stood to greet them. "Good morning, Mr. Mitchell. I'm ready for any feedback. I hope the task met your expectations." Richard gestured for Lucas to sit again. "Let's be straightforward. The task yesterday was a test not only to evaluate your technical skills, but also to assess your ability to handle adverse situations. Unfortunately, I'm not convinced that you fit what we're looking for." Lucas felt a knot in his stomach. "So, that's it? No more opportunities?" Tom intervened with an impassive expression. "We're always looking for people who fit into our culture and environment. How you handled the task was a clear indication of where you stand in relation to our standards." Lucas, visibly frustrated, tried to stay calm. "I followed all the instructions and did my best. If there's anything I can do to improve or prove my worth, I'm open to hearing it." Richard leaned forward, his gaze cold and calculating. "The issue, Lucas, isn't just your technical ability. It's your capacity to adapt to our expectations and fit into the culture we've established. The way you reacted and handled the tasks ultimately indicated that you may not align with our values." As Lucas tried to process the conversation, Jessica Mitchell, who had been concerned about Lucas's situation, arrived at the office. She looked visibly upset and decided to intervene. "Dad, Tom," Jessica said as she entered the room, "I'd like to speak with Lucas for a moment, if possible." Richard and Tom exchanged surprised looks, but Richard nodded with a gesture. "Sure, Jessica. You have a few minutes." Jessica approached Lucas, her expression a mix of concern and sympathy. "Lucas, can I talk to you privately?" Lucas stood up and followed Jessica into the hallway. "What's going on? They're saying I don't fit." Jessica looked around to make sure no one was listening. "I don't know all the details, but I can see that you're being treated unfairly." My father has very rigid standards and can sometimes be extremely inflexible. But I believe you deserved a fair chance. Lucas felt a momentary relief hearing Jessica's words. Thank you for that, Jessica. I feel like everything is being manipulated to disqualify me, no matter what I do. Jessica looked at him earnestly. I'll try to talk to my father and see if there's any other way to resolve this. I don't want you to leave here feeling like you didn't get a fair chance. Back in the conference room, Richard and Tom were discussing the next steps. Tom looked at Richard with a critical expression. I think Jessica is getting too involved. What will we do if she pushes for a review? Richard, with a calculating look, replied, if she insists, we might consider an alternative. But for now, the important thing is to maintain control and ensure the environment stays as expected. Lucas needs to understand his place. As Lucas prepared to leave the building, his heart heavy and his mind muddled, he realized he was facing a tough decision. The treatment he received seemed like a final blow in a process that had never intended to truly integrate him. Jessica approached again, looking a bit more hopeful. Lucas, I spoke with my dad. He's willing to consider a review, but I can't guarantee anything. I want you to know that I did my best to help. Lucas thanked Jessica with a sad smile. I sincerely appreciate it, Jessica. If this doesn't work out, I'll understand. At least I tried. With a mixed feeling of hope and disillusionment, Lucas left the building, unsure of what the future held. The day had brought a mix of revelations and uncertainties, and he was about to face the consequences of a system that seemed set against him. As the afternoon turned into evening in Atlanta, Lucas Johnson was at home, trying to process the humiliation and discomfort he had experienced at Mitchell Technologies. He was lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling, when he received a message from Jessica Mitchell. Lucas, my dad agreed to review your evaluation. Please come to the office tomorrow at 10 a.m., Jessica. A glimmer of hope ignited within Lucas. There might be a chance to rectify the injustices he felt he faced. With renewed determination, he prepared for the next day. The following morning, Lucas arrived at Mitchell Technologies with a mixed sense of anxiety and hope. The receptionist greeted him and directed him to the conference room, where Jessica was waiting. Good morning, Lucas, Jessica said with an encouraging smile. Thank you for coming. My dad is still reviewing some documents, but he should be ready soon. Good morning, Jessica, Lucas replied. I appreciate you intervening. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Jessica motioned for Lucas to sit. Please make yourself comfortable. I want you to know I'm doing everything I can to ensure you get a fair chance. My dad can be tough, but I'll try to argue on your behalf. Lucas nodded with a grateful look. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. After a few minutes of waiting, Richard and Tom entered the room. Richard looked more serious than usual, while Tom carried a folder full of documents. Good morning, Lucas, Richard said with an impassive expression. Jessica informed me that you'd like to discuss your evaluation. I'm willing to listen. Lucas stood and greeted Richard. Good morning, Mr. Mitchell. I appreciate the opportunity to speak again. I'd like to clarify some points about the task and explain why I believe I deserve a chance. Richard motioned for Lucas to sit again and took his place beside Tom. Sure. I'm listening. Feel free to explain. Lucas took a deep breath before starting. I followed the instructions given and did my best to complete the tasks. However, I felt the challenge was disproportionate and didn't accurately reflect my skills or potential. Richard looked at Lucas with a critical gaze. I understand. But as I mentioned earlier, the goal was to assess your ability to adapt and respond to adverse situations. How you handled the challenge was a significant factor in our decision. Jessica interjected assertively. Dad, I revisited the process and talked to Lucas. The task he received was extremely difficult and might not have been the best way to assess his abilities. I believe he deserves a fair review. Richard looked at Jessica with a skeptical expression. Jessica, I understand your point, but we need to be objective. Our intention has always been to assess the candidate's ability in a controlled, high-pressure environment. Tom, who had remained silent, finally spoke up. Richard, it might be worth considering a second evaluation. We could offer a different task that could provide a clearer view of Lucas's skills without excessive pressure. Richard thought for a moment, his expression closed off. Finally, he nodded. All right. If you really believe this is necessary, we'll do it. Lucas, you'll have a new task to complete. This time, the task will be different and more focused on your practical skills. Lucas, relieved by the decision, responded with a mix of gratitude and apprehension. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I'm ready for any challenge and hope this new task can reflect my true abilities. The next day, Lucas returned to Mitchell Technologies for the new task. The atmosphere felt different, with a more balanced sense of expectation. Jessica met him at the reception and led him to a training room where the new task would be presented. Lucas, I'll be here to make sure everything goes smoothly, Jessica said. This task was designed to assess your skills in a fairer way. Tom handed Lucas a new set of instructions. Here's the revised challenge. This time, you'll need to work on a practical project that simulates a real problem our company might face. You have 4 hours to complete it. Lucas read the instructions carefully. The new challenge involved creating a detailed project plan for a new product, including market research and an implementation proposal. It was a challenge more aligned with his project management skills. Got it, Lucas said, preparing for the task. I'll focus and do my best. As Lucas worked on the task, Richard and Jessica talked in the adjacent room. Richard was in a contemplative state, while Jessica tried to keep the pressure low to help Lucas concentrate. Dad, I just hope you're willing to see what Lucas can really offer, Jessica said. He's truly put in the effort and shown potential. Richard looked at Jessica with an unreadable expression. I'm trying to be fair, Jessica, but in the end, what matters is performance. Let's see how he performs on this revised task. As time passed, Lucas completed the project with a solid and detailed presentation. He handed his work to Tom and waited anxiously for the evaluation. When Richard and Tom reviewed Lucas's project, there was a noticeable change in their expressions. Richard looked at Tom with a more contemplative gaze. This project is undoubtedly much more representative of Lucas's skills, Richard finally said. He demonstrated good understanding and planning. It seems there was a misunderstanding about the nature of the first task. Tom nodded. Yes, it looks like Lucas has a lot to offer. Perhaps we were a bit hasty with the initial evaluation. Richard looked at Jessica, who was waiting anxiously. Jessica, I want to thank you for your intervention. We'll reconsider Lucas's application based on this new performance. Jessica smiled with relief. Thank you, Dad. I knew he could show his true worth. Lucas, upon receiving the news, felt a mix of relief and happiness. He had faced a huge challenge, but managed to demonstrate his potential. His story of struggle and perseverance was far from over, but he was determined to move forward with renewed hope and determination. After the revised evaluation, Lucas Johnson was in a phase of uncertainty but also renewed hope. The company had shown some flexibility and willingness to reconsider his application. Now, he eagerly awaited the final decision. The next morning, Lucas received an email from Jessica Mitchell requesting his presence at the company headquarters for a final meeting with Richard and Tom. He dressed in his best and drove to the office with a mix of nervousness and anticipation. When Lucas arrived, he was greeted by the receptionist and directed to the conference room where the meeting would take place. He found Jessica already there, looking hopeful. Good morning, Lucas, Jessica said as she saw him enter. I'm glad you could make it. My dad and Tom should be here any moment. Good morning, Jessica. I appreciate everything you've done. I'm nervous but also hopeful, Lucas replied, trying to mask his anxiety. Jessica gave him an encouraging smile. You did a great job on the revised task. I'm sure that will be taken into account. A few minutes later, Richard and Tom entered the room. Richard had a more neutral expression than usual, but seemed slightly more relaxed than before. Good morning, Lucas, Richard said, with a milder tone than in previous meetings. Jessica has updated me on your performance with the revised task. Let's discuss the situation. Lucas stood up to greet Richard and Tom. Good morning, Mr. Mitchell. I'm ready to discuss the next steps. Richard gestured for everyone to sit. After reviewing your latest task, it's clear that you demonstrated skills that weren't evident in the first task. The final evaluation is a complex decision, and we want to ensure that we're being fair. Tom, sitting next to Richard, added, Your latest presentation was impressive. However, we still need to discuss the feasibility of your integration into our team. Lucas, listening attentively, tried to stay calm. I understand. I'm ready for any discussion that might help clarify my position and potential with the company. Richard began speaking with a measured tone. Based on your performance in the revised task, we're willing to offer you an internship with the possibility of a full-time position after a review period. This internship will be a chance for you to demonstrate your ability to adapt and contribute effectively to our team. Lucas felt a mix of relief and accomplishment. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm willing to work hard and prove my value. What are the next steps? Tom opened a folder with documents and handed Lucas a contract. Here are the terms of the internship. It includes a 6-month period during which you'll have regular performance reviews. If everything goes well, there will be a real chance for a full-time position at the end of the period. Lucas quickly reviewed the contract and nodded, satisfied with the terms. Everything looks clear. I'm ready to sign and get started. Richard smiled slightly. Great. You'll start next Monday. The Human Resources team will be in touch to discuss the final details. After signing the contract and discussing a few additional details with Jessica and Tom, Lucas said his goodbyes and left the office with a sense of accomplishment. The challenge he had faced seemed to have been worth it. In the office, as Lucas walked away, Richard and Jessica talked about the decision. Dad, I really appreciate that you reconsidered, Jessica said with a sincere smile. Lucas truly showed his potential in the revised task. Richard nodded, looking more relaxed. Yes, it seems he has something to offer. It was a tough test, but he exceeded our expectations. Tom, who had been listening to the conversation, agreed. Let's see how he performs during the internship. If he continues to show the dedication he demonstrated, I believe he could become a valuable addition to the team. Jessica smiled with relief. That's great to hear. I was worried that it might all have been for nothing. Richard looked at Jessica with a paternal gaze. Sometimes you need to look beyond the surface and give a fair chance. Let's hope Lucas takes advantage of this opportunity and proves his worth. Lucas returned home with a sense of gratitude and determination. He knew that the internship was a chance to prove himself, but he was ready to face the challenge with courage. The turn in his journey was a sign that, despite the setbacks, there was a path forward to success. As he prepared for the start of his new chapter, Lucas reflected on the importance of perseverance and fighting for opportunities, even when it seemed like everything was against him. A new phase of his life was about to begin, and he was determined to make a difference. The sun shone brightly over Atlanta on Monday morning, signaling the start of Lucas Johnson's internship at Mitchell Technologies. With his mind full of expectations and the feeling of a new phase, Lucas woke up early and got ready for his first day at the company. He dressed in his best formal attire and headed to the office, which felt both familiar and foreign. The city streets were bustling, but Lucas focused only on the path to Mitchell Technologies, determined to make a good impression. Upon arriving at the building, Lucas was greeted by Sarah, the Human Resources coordinator, who led him to his work area. Sarah was a middle-aged woman with an air of efficiency and friendliness. Good morning, Lucas, Sarah said with a smile. We're very happy to have you with us. I'll take you to your desk and introduce you to the team. Good morning, Sarah. I'm excited to get started, Lucas replied, trying to convey his determination. Sarah guided Lucas through the office corridors, which were decorated in a modern and functional style. They passed several areas, including meeting rooms and collaborative spaces, before arriving at Lucas's workstation. This will be your workspace, Sarah said, pointing to a neatly organized desk with a computer and some office supplies. Here, you'll find everything you need to get started. Lucas looked around and noticed a small welcome card on his desk. He sat down and began to settle in as Sarah continued. You'll have a direct supervisor who will be responsible for guiding you during your internship. He's out right now, but should be back soon. If you need anything, don't hesitate to check in with the reception or send me a message, Sarah said before bidding him farewell. Lucas spent some time organizing his space and reviewing the introductory material he had received. As he got immersed in his work, the door opened and a tall, well-dressed man entered. It was Mark Reynolds, the project manager who would be his supervisor. Good morning, Lucas. I'm Mark Reynolds. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mark said, extending his hand for a firm handshake. I'm looking forward to working with you and helping you integrate into the team. Good morning, Mark. The pleasure is mine. I'm ready to start and learn as much as I can, Lucas replied, shaking Mark's hand firmly. Mark observed Lucas for a moment, assessing him. Great. Today, I'd like to start with an introduction to our team and the ongoing projects. We have some important projects that you'll help manage and analyze. Mark led Lucas to the meeting room where the team was gathered. They were all engaged in a discussion about the progress of various projects. Everyone, I'd like to introduce Lucas Johnson, our new intern, Mark said, drawing everyone's attention. He'll be working with us for the next few weeks, and I hope you'll make him feel welcome. The team members waved and briefly introduced themselves. Among them were Emily, the data analyst, and Robert, the senior developer. They all seemed friendly and eager to help. Hi, Lucas. I'm Emily, said a woman with brown hair and thick-rimmed glasses. I'm excited to work with you. If you need any help with data-related tasks, I'm here for you. Hello, Lucas, Robert said in a laid-back tone. If you need anything related to development or just want to grab a coffee, let me know. The team is pretty tight-knit here. Lucas thanked everyone and felt a bit more at ease with the warm reception. The meeting continued, and Mark provided an overview of the projects, explaining Lucas's role. Lucas, one of your first tasks will be assisting with data analysis for our new software development project. We need someone to help with data collection and interpretation, as well as preparing reports for the team, Mark explained. Lucas took note of the instructions and asked detailed questions to clarify his duties. He wanted to ensure he was well prepared to tackle the challenges ahead. At the end of the day, Lucas felt tired but satisfied with his progress. He had completed several initial tasks and gotten to know the team and the work environment. While he was at the reception, Sarah approached for a quick chat. How was your first day? Sarah asked with a smile. It was really good, thank you, Lucas replied. I'm starting to get a better grasp of the projects and the team dynamics. Everyone has been very welcoming. I'm glad to hear that, Sarah said. The first week can be a bit intense, but I'm confident you'll adapt well. If you need anything, remember I'm here to help. As Lucas headed home for the day, he reflected on this new chapter of his life. The first day had been challenging and full of information, but he was determined to make the most of the opportunity. The warm reception from the team and Mark's guidance were a good start, and Lucas was set on proving his worth. He knew the internship would be a tough journey, but with determination and support from the team, he was ready to face the challenges and prove that offering him this opportunity was the right choice. The journey was just beginning, and Lucas was ready to give it his all. Lucas Johnson's first week at Mitchell Technologies was intense, filled with new learnings and challenges. He was adjusting to the routine, absorbing information, and trying to stand out in his tasks. Each day brought a new set of responsibilities and opportunities to impress his team. By Friday, Lucas was finishing up a data analysis report for a software development project. Emily had been a great help during this task, offering guidance on how to interpret the data and prepare it for presentation. Lucas, your report is almost ready, but I think you can improve the data visualization here, Emily said, pointing at the computer screen. Try using more detailed graphs to highlight the key trends. Thanks, Emily, Lucas replied, adjusting the graph according to her suggestions. I really appreciate your help. It's been an intense learning experience, but I'm enjoying it. Emily smiled. That's great to hear. If you need more help or have any questions, you can count on me. And don't worry if the beginning is tough. It's normal to take some time to adapt. During lunch, Lucas ran into Robert in the company kitchen, where Robert was making coffee. Hey, Lucas, how's the internship going? Robert asked in a friendly tone. Hi, Robert. It's going well. A bit overwhelming, but I'm adjusting, Lucas replied, grabbing a coffee cup. It's been an intense week, but I'm starting to feel more comfortable. Robert laughed. That's great. The first week is always the hardest, but you're doing a good job. Just remember that we're all here to help. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'll remember that. Thanks for the support, Lucas said, appreciating the encouragement. After lunch, Mark called a quick meeting with Lucas to discuss the progress of his current task. The meeting took place in the conference room, where Mark was reviewing some documents. Lucas, how's the report coming along? Mark asked, looking at Lucas with a focused expression. I'm almost done, Mark. Emily helped me improve the data visualizations. I hope the report meets your needs, Lucas replied, handing a printed copy to Mark. Mark reviewed the report carefully. This is excellent. The analysis is detailed, and the visualizations are very helpful. Great job. The team will be impressed with the clarity of the information. I'm glad to hear that, Lucas said, feeling relieved and satisfied. I really put in the effort to make sure it was done well. Mark smiled and made a note in his notebook. You've been doing very well so far. Keep it up and make the most of this opportunity to learn as much as you can. At the end of the day, Jessica approached Lucas while he was organizing his things to leave. Lucas, do you have a minute? Jessica asked in a friendly tone. Sure, Jessica. What do you need? Lucas replied as he packed up. I just wanted to congratulate you on the excellent work this week. I've heard great feedback about you from the team, Jessica said with a satisfied smile. You're doing really well, and I wanted you to know that it hasn't gone unnoticed. Thank you, Jessica. That really means a lot to me, Lucas said, feeling encouraged. I'm doing my best to show that this opportunity was worth it. Keep it up. There's a long road ahead, but if you continue to show the same commitment and effort, I'm sure you'll succeed, Jessica advised. As Lucas prepared to leave, Mark approached him for a brief conversation. Lucas, one more thing before you go. Starting next week, you'll be involved in a new project that will likely require more collaboration with the team, Mark said. I'd like you to start familiarizing yourself with the details of this project over the weekend. We'll discuss more on Monday. Got it, Mark. I'll review the material and get ready for the new challenge, Lucas replied, determined. Lucas left the office and headed home with a sense of accomplishment. The first week had been full of challenges, but also of achievements. He had received praise, made good connections with the team, and begun to prove his worth at Mitchell Technologies. Reflecting on his week, Lucas realized how much he had learned and how much more there was to learn. The journey was just beginning, and he was determined to keep pushing and make a difference. With the weekend ahead, Lucas planned to spend time reviewing the new project material and preparing for the challenges to come. He knew the road ahead would be long and demanding, but he was ready to face any obstacle with courage and determination. Monday arrived, marking a new beginning for Lucas Johnson. After a weekend spent reviewing the next project's material, Lucas was eager for what awaited him at Mitchell Technologies. He arrived early at the office, feeling ready for the new challenges. When Lucas entered the conference room for the morning meeting, he found the team already gathered. Mark, Emily, and Robert were seated around the table, discussing some documents. Good morning, everyone, Lucas said as he took a seat. Good morning, Lucas, Mark replied warmly. I'm glad you arrived early. Let's start the meeting to discuss the new project you'll be involved in. Emily and Robert greeted him with nods. Robert was looking at a projected screen displaying a workflow diagram. This project is crucial for our next development phase. Mark began the presentation. We're developing a data analytics platform for an important client, and we need the team to work collaboratively to deliver a high-quality product. He pointed to the diagram. Lucas, you'll be responsible for integrating the data analysis modules and working with the team to ensure everything functions smoothly. Got it, Mark. I'll focus on ensuring the modules integrate well and that the data analysis is both accurate and efficient, Lucas responded, taking notes. Mark continued, we'll divide the project into several phases. The first phase involves gathering and analyzing requirements. We need to clearly define what the client expects from the platform. Lucas, you'll start with this phase and collaborate with Emily and Robert to ensure all requirements are understood and documented. Throughout the week, Lucas dedicated himself to understanding the project scope. He spent hours reviewing documents, gathering information, and discussing requirements with Emily and Robert. Emily, can you help me better understand the key performance indicators we need to monitor for the client? Lucas asked while reviewing the requirements at Emily's desk. Sure, Lucas. The key indicators are related to data processing efficiency and prediction accuracy. We need to ensure data is processed quickly and that predictions are as accurate as possible, Emily explained. Let's work together to define the technical details. Great. I'll focus on that and draft an approach for how we can tackle these requirements, Lucas said, jotting down the information. Midweek, Mark called a meeting to review the progress. The team gathered again in the conference room, where Mark assessed the current status of the project. Let's see how we're doing with defining the requirements, Mark began. reviewing the documents Lucas and the team had prepared. Lucas raised his hand. I've prepared a detailed document with the requirements and the approach we discussed. It's here for review. Mark took the document and began reviewing it. This is very well done, Lucas. The definitions are clear, and the requirements are well documented. The next step will be to review the technical approach with Robert and ensure all modules are aligned. Robert looked at the document and commented, "You did a good job, Lucas. Now we need to ensure the integration of the modules is done efficiently. Let's start planning this phase." As the project progressed, Lucas continued to collaborate with the team and tackle new challenges. One day, he ran into an issue with one of the data analysis modules, which wasn't performing as expected. "Robert, I'm having a problem here. The module I'm integrating is producing inconsistent results. Could you take a look?" Lucas asked, concerned. Robert approached Lucas's workstation. "Sure, let's see what's going on." After investigating the problem, Robert suggested a few adjustments that might resolve the inconsistency. "It looks like the issue is with how the data is being processed. Let's review the code together and make the necessary fixes." At the end of the week, the team had another meeting to assess progress and discuss the next steps. Mark was pleased with the progress and praised Lucas's work. "We're doing very well. The requirements phase is complete, and the modules are integrating as expected. Lucas, you've done an excellent job with the coordination and documentation. We're on track to deliver the project on time," Mark said with a tone of approval. "Thank you, Mark. The collaboration with the team has been very productive. I'm learning a lot and looking forward to the next phases," Lucas replied, feeling motivated and satisfied with the feedback. As the day came to an end, Lucas ran into Jessica by the office exit. "Lucas, how's the new project going?" Jessica asked with an interested smile. "It's going well. The team is great, and we're making solid progress. We've had some challenges, but we're working through them as we go," Lucas responded. Jessica nodded, pleased. "That's great to hear. Keep it up. I'm really impressed with your performance and dedication." Lucas smiled, excited to keep moving forward. "Thank you, Jessica. I'll continue doing my best to contribute in any way I can." As Lucas left the office that night, he felt a mix of exhaustion and accomplishment. The week had been challenging, but also full of progress and learning. He was building a solid foundation for his success at Mitchell Technologies and was ready to tackle the upcoming challenges with determination and enthusiasm. The end of Lucas Johnson's internship at Mitchell Technologies was approaching. The final week was marked by a series of evaluations and reviews, with the team preparing to deliver the crucial project. Lucas's hard work and dedication were about to be assessed, and the anxiety about his future with the company was growing. On Wednesday morning, Mark called a meeting with the team to review the final status of the project and discuss each member's contribution. Lucas entered the conference room, where Mark, Emily, and Robert were already gathered. "Good morning, Lucas," Mark said, signaling him to sit down. "Today we'll do a final review of the project and discuss your performance during the internship." "Good morning, Mark. I'm ready for the review," Lucas replied, adjusting his posture in the chair. Mark began the presentation, showing the project's progress and highlighting each team member's major contributions. When it was time to talk about Lucas, Mark paused and looked at him. "Lucas, you've been an essential part of this project. Your skill in integrating the data analysis modules and your ability to document requirements in detail have been remarkable. I'll turn it over to Emily and Robert so they can share their thoughts on your performance." Emily smiled and started, "Lucas, your work has been excellent. Your careful approach to understanding and documenting the requirements was crucial to the project's progress. You've definitely made a significant contribution." Robert added, "I agree. The way you handled technical challenges and collaborated with the team was impressive. You demonstrated a strong technical understanding and a solid work ethic." Lucas listened attentively, feeling relieved and pleased with the positive feedback. After the review, Mark led the meeting to discuss Lucas's future at the company. "Now that we've completed the review, I'd like to talk about the next step," Mark began, with a serious tone. "Lucas, your performance during the internship has been very positive. The team and I are impressed with your work and dedication." Lucas's heart raced, and he focused on Mark's words. "Based on your performance, we'd like to offer you a junior analyst position on our team." It's an entry-level role, but there's room for growth and development over time. What do you think? Lucas took a deep breath, surprised and excited. That's amazing, Mark. I'm very grateful for the opportunity and eager to continue contributing to the team. Mark smiled. Great. We'll go over the details of the contract and formalize your integration into the team. If you agree, we'll start preparing all the necessary documents. On Thursday afternoon, Lucas was in Mark's office reviewing the details of the new contract. Jessica came in to join the meeting. Lucas, congratulations on the job offer, Jessica said with an enthusiastic smile. I'm so happy for you. I'm sure you'll do a fantastic job as a junior analyst. Thank you, Jessica. I really appreciate all the support throughout the internship, Lucas responded, feeling thankful. Mark and Jessica went over the contract terms with Lucas, making sure everything was clear and agreed upon. After signing, Mark handed Lucas a finalized copy of the contract. Welcome officially to the team, Lucas. We're excited to start this new phase with you, Mark said, extending his hand for a firm handshake. Thank you, Mark. I'm excited to get started and contribute to the team's success, Lucas replied, shaking Mark's hand confidently. On Friday, Lucas spent the day wrapping up pending tasks and preparing for his new role. At the end of the day, he met with Emily and Robert for an informal farewell to the internship. It's been a pleasure working with you, Lucas, Emily said, shaking Lucas's hand. You added a lot of value to the project, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you. Yeah, it's been great having you on the team, Robert added. We'll need your energy and dedication. I wish you all the best in your new position. Thank you both. It's been an incredible experience, and I'm excited for the next chapter, Lucas responded with a smile. As Lucas left the office, he looked at the building with a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. The internship at Mitchell Technologies had been both a challenge and a growth opportunity, and he was ready for the new phase as a junior analyst. While driving home, Lucas reflected on his journey from the start. He had faced significant challenges, proven his worth, and was now ready to embark on a new stage in his career. The confidence and determination he developed throughout the internship had well prepared him for the upcoming challenges. The future was full of possibilities, and Lucas was ready to embrace it with enthusiasm and dedication. He knew the path wouldn't always be easy, but he was prepared to face any obstacle with the same courage he had shown so far.